Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is November 26th, 2023. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I feel a heck of a lot better, mostly recovered. Voice is almost back. Coughing is to a minimum. Wearing my ninja suit. Going to be doing some cold stuff tonight. And so I figured I'd get all prepped up. Even has a nice little hoodie. There you go. See? Yeah, ninja suit for the win. It's a onesie. How's everybody doing? Today is the surprise AMA. You didn't think it was coming, did you? But it is. I've missed you. Missed everybody. It's been a lot of fun. The last month has been a whirlwind, traveling all around the world. I went to Dubai and then Abu Dhabi, went over to Greece and then Iceland, had a birthday, turned 36 years old. How about that? That's pretty exciting. And just chipping away at things. We had the Cardano Summit. It was really amazing, a lot of fun. You know, uh, Seeing all the different projects actually get to the next state and really start building is pretty humbling. I remember in 2021 when we were over in Laramie, Wyoming, of all places, for the Cardano Summit there. And I said, hey, you guys are building now. Smart contracts are on. Let's see what you do with it. And it's pretty amazing to see how much progress has been made. You got Oxo and Indigo, you got Jed, you got dozens and dozens of really interesting and cool and sexy NFT projects. People are building, people are excited, people are fired up. They're filled with joy and passion. And it's in a deep, deep, deep bear market. Lots of stuff is going on. And we're just getting there, takes some time, takes some effort, but you guys are getting it done, and gals. And I'm proud of each and every one of you. I'm pretty excited. There's still the usual FUD. It's kind of funny. There's hundreds of engineers every single day working on Cardano, just like Cardano, Cardano, Cardano. And they're saying we need to get Ouroboros Paris out and Genesis out. And there's lots of ledger improvements that need to be made, and tons of optimizations. And there's a huge amount of testing and discussion around Laos, which is input endorsers. And then people say, oh, well, they're distracted. The midnight, they've just moved on. There's no more love here. Is like, that's the entire point of Cardano, is to have a service layer. So we can have dozens of chains that work together to augment your Cardano applications so that you can actually build things that are true Web3. And we're in the meat and potatoes of it. We're working in our way there. Governance is coming. If you don't like the direction of things, change it. SIP 1694, it's Sancho Net, I think, is in like 8.6, 8.7. There's a huge amount of progress that's been made on the code. A lot of people are building. People are starting to register as DREPs, and they're understanding how things work. And 2024 is really the year of governance. 2023 was the year we built it and talked about it. 2024 is the year we live it. And boy, it's going to be difficult. Hopefully we don't turn into Jacobians. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm real excited about BLS support. I'm real excited about all the things that are coming. Plutus 3 looks amazing. SIP 1694 looks amazing. It's going to be a fun year. And I'm glad that we're deep into building, and I'm glad that we're starting to bring a lot of best-in-class technologies together. It's super cool to have seen the space evolve over the last 10 years and be able to finally start linking these different things together. We never lost our principles. We never lost our core. We're still in Africa, got a whole company for it. John O'Connor lives in Kenya, rolled up all the things we were doing, all the pilot programs, started a company called RealFi Co. And we're putting many, many millions of dollars into it, growing it. And the company's going to basically service the needs of millions to tens of millions of people. Ethiopia is still going on. Some people are floating around saying there's nothing there. Well, I got news for you. We kept the program going despite the fact we haven't been paid, and there's a war going on. So we're working hard and we're pushing hard, and we'll just keep rolling out things, and we honor our commitments and we build things. But it's just how the internet works and what people do, and that's really sometimes the ultimate frustration, is that You can't control the macro, you can't control the politics. In 2021, we lived in an environment where crypto was on fire and everybody wanted to be our friend. Our phone would ring off the hook. Everybody call us and say, "Hey, you want to work with us? Hey, we want to do a pilot. Hey, let's do an MOU. Hey, can you sponsor this?" The NFL called me, fucking NFL, and they said, "We think Cardano would be an amazing sponsor for that." I first said, "I don't do that. It's other people. Go reach out to the foundation or talk to the Cardano community." And second, I don't know if there's an alignment there. But Formula One would call us, Formula E would call us. I saw Susie Wolf, all these other people, dozens and dozens of Fortune 500 companies. I go to the Milken Institute, and goddamn, crypto was special. All the people come on over and say, "Oh, Charles, you're so brilliant, so amazing, so incredible." Get invited to speak before Congress, all these things. And then FTX collapses, Luna collapses, the bear market comes, the US government turns against crypto, and they say, "Oh my God, how are you not in jail? You should be broke by now. The whole crypto industry is evil." Technology didn't change. The philosophy didn't change. The principles didn't change. Who we are as an ecosystem, that didn't change at all. We just keep building. And today in 2023, Cardano is so much stronger than it was in 2021. But people get caught into these group things. They just push forward. And that's okay. That's why we have the AMAs. That's why we engage. That's why we talk to you guys. And, that's why we try as hard as we can to just be human and be direct and connect. You can't always win, but at least you can share in the losses and in the gains. Okay, let's talk to you guys. Let's see what you got. And we will get to the Husk said. What is the relationship with Polkadot in the N? Just leveraging that for midnight. There's no formal relationship with Polkadot because Polkadot is both a protocol and a family of technology. So some components of Parity Substrate have been leveraged to build out the Midnight network and run the Midnight DevNet, soon to be testnet, later on incentivized testnet, and hopefully mainnet. Now, it's not just stock substrate. That would be a gross oversimplification. Hundreds of thousands of lines of custom code are being added in, and many components are being taken out and replaced, especially in the network consensus and other components of the system. And the reason being is that substrate stock is not fit for purpose for a Cardano service layer, but it has embedded within it a ton of really good ideas, like the palette system and a lot of how they thought about the interfaces and how to deploy and monitor and maintain blockchain infrastructure. There's some world-class engineering that was done there, but it's not substrate proper. It's inspired by it, iterated, modified, and you'll kind of see that reflected in Midnight. So there's two projects at the same time: Cardano Partner Chain Toolkit and Midnight. One is downstream of the other. Midnight is downstream of the Partner Chain Toolkit, and there's a separate team that works on that. They're both in Rust with heavy modifications, but one is a blockchain builder kit, and its intention is to build out the partner chain ecosystem. And the other is specifically Midnight, and that's what's being tested right now with the DevNet, with over 1,500 teams that signed up. Charles, you fly the Blackhawk yet? Well, we've flown in it, but the Blackhawk, I don't have a pilot's license yet. Just haven't had the time to get one. But it's definitely on the list of things to do over the next 24 months is to learn how to fly that bad boy. That is a glorious red crab. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. That is a lobster named Logan. The NFL really called it. Absolutely did. Got the emails and everything to prove it. In fact, let me see if I can find it. It's kind of funny. Everybody on the internet, they're so close to call me a liar, but goddamn, I have so many emails. You would not believe what we got. Let's see here. NFL. Do sponsorship. Yeah, I'll find it for you guys one of these days. Reese's. VP marketing. Anyway, grab it for you guys. Cardano blockchain. What else we got here? Why is ADA the only token still in a bear market? It's not. What do you think about Vitalik talking about UTXO more and more often? He's starting to realize that there's actually a reason you have UTXO in addition to Ethereum. He's rediscovering what we discovered from Satoshi. And that's okay. When you follow a peer-reviewed process, you learn an enormous amount of stuff. When you don't follow that process, you learn it, but you learn it after the fact, after you've deployed, and it's in the hands of millions of people, and it's super hard to change things. And in many cases, you can't work with their infrastructure. Charles, what's your favorite wine, if any? American wines. Russian River Valley is the way to go. Californian wines. Is Cardano competitive against Solana? The better question is Solana competitive against Cardano? First-hand evidence is greater than hearsay from an IOG insider. So, yeah, I know that one. There's this troll that's floating around that's really disgruntled, and he's absolutely convinced that I'm a despicable, evil man. And apparently he's talking to some ex-employees of ours who are violating their NDA. And second, third, fourth, fifth hand, apparently he knows our whole business strategy and who we are and all these things, and me as a person. And is very liberal about it on Twitter and enjoys sharing it. Outside of the fact that, when you hire thousands of people throughout your career and you let people go, some of them might be disgruntled or only have a particular view of things. And it's their character when they go ahead and anonymously leak things that are privileged. It's extraordinary to me that people care. You look at any entrepreneur, whether it be Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, Bill Gates, you pick your favorite one. And the reality is they leave a wide wake of things, massive wake of things, especially if you're a billionaire and you've done things involved tens of billions of dollars. A lot of people are floating around and you'll piss some people off. Why? Because you won and they didn't. You got a better deal than them. You held them accountable for something they screwed up on and they thought you're wrong and they're not wrong and they were treated unfairly. Longer you're in business, exponentially this increases because the amount of people you interact with, the amount of people touch, the amount of people you talk to increases. So at any given moment, even if you're a rock star, you're going to have an 80% approval rating, which means you have 20% disapproval rating. And of that 20%, about 5-10% of the backwash down there hates you with a passion and they're real angry and real disgruntled. And those people go and they write stuff, they leak stuff, they do something to balance the scales. That's the price you pay for being an entrepreneur. It's the price you pay for building stuff. You want to be liked, then be vanilla toast. If you want to be effective, then accept the fact that you have to have the courage to be disliked and you have to develop a pretty thick skin for what people say about you. And at the end of the day, it all works its way out because we tend to forget the politics of the day and remember the big broad brushstrokes of things. Broad brushstrokes, almost 200 academic papers have been written, $12 billion ecosystem has been created, 4 million people use it. Thousands and thousands of engineers, project managers, product managers, hundreds of projects built on it, and we are relevant. We're in top 10. We're in the game. Every day we fight. People talk about us. People invest in us, build us in one way or another. Okay, they choose to build on Cardano as an ecosystem. That's track record, 10 plus years building that. Now we're going to break some eggs along the way, piss some people off along the way, but that's what we're doing. That's where we're at. It's who we are. And so if we don't have critics, it means we haven't achieved anything. And I'm very glad that we do. Now, they lie and they get very personal and they say things that are out there and crazy. But you know what? Alex Jones tells us the frogs are turning gay. Does it really impact anything? Really change anything outside of being a great soundbite? It's entertaining. That's the way you have to take it, and that's the way you have to think about it. And it be a lesson to you if you ever want to change anything or build anything. The reality is that you will face criticism, fair and unfair, and you'll be judged at your worst moments. Like, for example, the other day I was reading the Binance ruling and I was tired, been up for a while, and I saw trillions of dollars of trading volume, and I read the number and I said, oh my God, there was $1.6 trillion in fees. And I read it like 3 times. And every time I read it as 1.6 trillion. I went ahead and took a screenshot, posted it. I said, this is unbelievable. Then I looked at it again and I said, oh, it's 1.6 billion in fees from US people. Now, for the rest of time, that screenshot's going to be up there. And just like the "Do you know who I am" tweet from 2018, 5 years ago, it's going to be posted again and again and again and again and again. Or that picture where I'm hanging out with Rachel Siegel, the Cosmopolitan, will be posted again and 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 again. Getting tired of it again and again and again. Getting tired of it, get again and again and again and again and again, as if it happened yesterday. No context, or the worst possible context. That is what it's like. That is what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Every day is that. And amplify it 1,000 times in 1,000 different directions. Every single day. Then they write books. Then they make movies. And if you're really, really, really successful, half of your country hates you for the rest of your life for no reason other than the fact that someone told them to. That's why changing things is so hard, because that's how we treat the people who change things. That's how we treat the people who tell the truth or who are creative. You know, there's no correlation to academic success and creativity. Jordan Peterson made this amazing video. All these people that go out and try to get PhD, write dissertations, write theses, they wash out because there's no correlation between their raw creativity and unorthodox way of seeing things and the way the system works. Same for medicine. Did you know that if you take stem cells and you grow them, your own stem cells, suddenly it's a new drug and you have to go through the entire FDA approval process? Imagine that. I can just take your stem cells, grow them, do nothing to them. We know it's just your cells. There's nothing, there's no harm. They have to go through FDA approval, 10, 15 years. Animal trials. How does that even work? The Section 251 exemption doesn't apply. There's so many things that are so fucked up in the world, especially here in America with our government. And you say, that's bad. And everybody agrees with you. You go and try to change it, and then suddenly half America hates you. Huh. That's my soapbox. That's exactly right. Richard Gere still gets flack for that unproven gerbil thing. For those of you who don't know, there were some rumors that were spread that Richard Gere likes having gerbils crawl up his ass. Does that sound true? There are still people who believe that. From our good friend Lucas, thoughts on the new Argentine president, Javier. Would be great to set up a meeting when you come to Buenos Aires. I would love to meet him. I know you know him. He is in the libertarian family. He's an Austrian economist, the first world leader who believes in the Austrian School of Economics, wants to get rid of the central bank. That's a friend of mine. You're never going to find a perfect politician. They're always going to have some edge cases that you disagree with or you find distasteful. But you know what? That's a movement in the right direction. Somebody who says government is the problem, not the solution to the problem, and the government creates the problems. I like that guy. And you know what? Crypto is the answer. We got to get him completely on board with the blockchain industry and talk about self-sovereign identity, blockchain-based services, blockchain-based voting. Because, by the way, you don't have that, you suddenly lose your office and you wonder why. And blockchain-based money. So we're going to get there. And I think Argentina has a chance to lead the world. As a fact, having an opinion divides your audience. Absolutely does. And that's their fault, not mine. Grow up. When people talk to you, if they're real people, they're going to have an opinion you may not agree with. And that's okay. You can still listen to those people, and you can still be inspired by those people. You can still admire those people. You can still work with those people. If the only people you want to listen to are the people who have the same opinion as you, you live in a very small world. Very small. Please talk about the SEC. There's nothing to talk about. Nothing at all. I see all these people say, well, can you go and prove you're not a security? Guys, everything is a security right now, according to the SEC. They would say Bitcoin and Ethereum were a security if they get away with it. Because the reality is that the way that the 1933 investment contracts define, Howey Test is defined, is overly broad. And what happens is they litigate it if they really care. Baseball cards could be securities if they really wanted them to be. Why not? When you have policy through enforcement instead of legislation, it leaves a catastrophic harm to an industry. And normally what happens when you have a well-functioning government is whenever a new technology comes, like we saw with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and the NSF-AUP and other things that were passed in the 1990s, like with the internet, is that the legislative arm of the government shows up and says, our rules that were written 70 years ago cannot possibly have imagined and comply with this new industry that exists. The United States, we regulate things by boxes. You're a currency, FinCEN, and BSA, and this other stuff. You're a commodity, CFTC. You're a security, SEC, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what do you do when you have an asset that could be everything all at once? It can be a security, it can be a commodity, it can be a loyalty point, it can be a representation of real estate, it can be intellectual property, it can be a collector's item, it can be an identity, and it can be all of those things at the same time. Who regulates that? So you're in full compliance with the CFTC and FinCEN, all these other things. And this other guy comes and says, come in and register. Come in and register. How? There's no path to do it. There's no explanation on how to do it. When you go in and ask, they say, we can't tell you. Ask your lawyer. Ask the lawyer. They say there's no path. Coinbase tries to do this. 2021, they file an S1. The SEC looks at it and says, you know what? Your business model is okay to expose to retail investors, millions of retail investors. You can sell stock to them. We will let you do an IPO. They explain their listing, all the assets, including ADA, were on that. The SEC checkmark. And then 2 years later, after talking to them like 24 times, they come back and say, oh, I can't believe you're selling these cryptocurrencies on your exchange. Well, we don't understand this model. You guys are an unregistered broker dealer, and we have to take you down. They say what the business model is exactly the same with the business model that you approved and allowed us to sell our stock to retail investors with. You spent a year and a half with us and millions of dollars of legal fees talking to you guys. Why then wouldn't everything be okay? No, now it's not. And I said, well, what about all the time, the 2 years we talked to you, where we have a broker-dealer license, we certainly could figure out a way to do this. You ghosted us. And now you're suing us. And Kraken and Bittrex and everybody else. What do you do? The courts obviously will resolve this, but the problem with the executive branch is they know that if they sue people, resolution takes 2 to 3 years, and even when they lose, they just go nee, and they just keep going until the legislative branch stops them. This is a failure of Congress in the United States. They need to pass a law, and they need to set clear rules, and the vast majority of people in the industry will follow those rules. The rules are not clear. It's impossible to comply with them. And I would love a memo to be drafted to show how, because it's not possible. And also to argue that every single thing is a security. If the founders all die and the protocol still operates and runs, and the value of it is based upon the efforts of a collective of thousands, if not tens of thousands of independent people, how is that a security? We already have a term for that. It's called a commodity. If you kill any person on the planet, any person at all, the value of gold regardless if that's a CEO of Barracks or the owner of the largest gold mine in the world, is still going to be there. Why? Because gold, its value is a collective of a marketplace. And the participation of these things are permissionless. Who comes to me and asks, can I build on Cardano? You have to ask Microsoft to do something with their products. You have to sign their licenses to do something with their products. It's centralized. But in a commodity, anybody at any time can wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to grow some wheat. You know what? I got some gold over there. I'm going to take it and sell it in a global marketplace. That's why the CFTC exists. Kind of makes sense, right? These are open protocols. But then they come in and say it's a security. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean if it's decentralized? How does Bitcoin register? Oh, but it's not. Then explain to me the fucking difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and the rest of the gang. Explain it to me. Like I'm 5 years old. Run the goddamn Howey test on it and show me the difference between the two. Tell me, is there an expectation of return with the goddamn orange pill moon boys? It's there. There's so many different planks and angles that you can take a look at this thing from. And by the way, if you subpoena an attack about 3 different entities, you could perform a 51% attack on Bitcoin because that's the way the hash power works. But it's decentralized, apparently. And Team Orange gets a complete pass. It's a pathetic fucking joke. It's an absolutely pathetic joke. You know, and it would be funny if not for the fact that hundreds of millions of dollars of legal fees have been exhausted in this Pyrrhic war that's being fought on the industry. And they'll lose court case after court case, as they already have and will continue. And then at some point, it'll stop. There will not be an apology. There's not going to be any money that comes back, and we'll just move on. Like we did with the Kennedy assassination. We'll just move on. Like we did with Vietnam. We'll just move on. Like we did with Iraq and Afghanistan. We'll just move on like we're doing right now with COVID. We'll just move on like we did with all the things that have happened in the last 50, 60, 70 years in the United States history. It has to stop. It honestly has to stop. Why do I praise libertarians come in? Because the only people that seem to think the only people seem to improve the situation, the people that are unraveling the government. It's not accountable anymore. People harm people, they get away with it, and they just move on, and nothing changes. I'm tired of it. I think our industry is tired of it. The entire reason cryptocurrencies exist is not because somebody woke up and said, man, tokens on the internet is such a good idea. The entire reason cryptocurrencies exist is that we're trying collectively to reestablish the social contract, because the social contract is horrifically broken. If the people in charge are unelected, unaccountable, and don't ever have to prove to us, the beneficiaries of the public trust, that they're doing good for us. And when they screw up, nothing happens to them. They get a promotion, they get elected to higher office, and we just have to move on as a society. That is not a government for the people, by the people, of the people. That is something else. That looks a lot more like the thing that we rebelled against when we founded this goddamn country. So it will change because we don't have any money left. We're $31 trillion in debt. Everything is collapsing down, and the American empire can't sustain itself. So you run out of money, eventually it's going to fall apart. And we all know that, you know, and it's just sad because so many people have invested so much effort, time, money, and blood and tears and sweat into trying to preserve and protect and empower the American dream. And by the way, it's not the American people that are doing this. We want to change. If you poll people, over 80, 90% of the American people are fundamentally unhappy with the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch, and want different leaders and different governance. Yet, the American government stays exactly the same. Doesn't change. The American people are good people. Go all around the United States, you find very hardworking people, honest people, high integrity people. It's hard to go to a country and go to Gillette, Wyoming. It's -15, -20 outside, 100-mile-an-hour winds. and they're out there working outside, building something because they got a family to take care of. That's the American people in a nutshell. That's who we are. We get it done. We build the best companies. We build the best infrastructure. We're the smartest people, not because we're born smart, because we import smart. If there's someone smart outside, somewhere else in the world, we find them, grab them, bring them here. It doesn't matter where they're from. Be from Uganda, be from South Africa, they can be from Mongolia, Russia. We don't care. We'll bring them in, work with them. That's who we are. That's who we are at our core. And then we have this government, and it's a catastrophe. And it just harms and hurts so many people. And it never says it's sorry. It never says it's done something wrong. And there's no accountability anymore. It used to be the fourth estate was the media, and they'd hold the government accountable. They'd say, oh, look at what the government did. Pentagon Papers. They lied to you. Let's publish it. Let's talk about it. Now, oh, WikiLeaks. Evil Julian Assange. How dare you compromise our national security and talk about that stuff? It's a joke. It really is. So we'll change it. We'll fix it. There's two-prong approach. One is the blockchain stuff. It's really about social engineering. It's saying we're reinvent money. We're going to reinvent our voice. So change all the voting systems, reinvent identity and property rights. And that's a philosophical movement. We own the young. It might take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but Gen Z, they're not going anywhere. They're here in this movement because they understand this is fair. This is high integrity. You can't trust people anymore. They grew up with the internet. They see all the hypocrisy. They see news real time. The other prong of it is that the federal government is impossible to change. People say, Charles, why don't you run for president? What's the point? Obama can't change it and Trump can't change it. I'm sorry. There's no way to change it. Think about how powerful Obama was when he came into office. He had a super majority, 60 senators, super majority in the Congress. There's no filibuster. He could pass anything on a party line vote. We were on the back of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Didn't go after Wall Street. Iceland did. It's extraordinary. Trump comes into office, is unconnected to everything. Couldn't get anything done. Why? Because the beast does not permit change. The deep state's a thing. It exists. You can't vote your way out of it. So the only way to change it is a constitutional convention. That's the escape clause the founding fathers were smart enough to put into the Constitution. You need 2/3 of the states to come together, and it will happen. And the whole government needs to be rewritten, and we'll write a new constitution. We're learning how to do that right now, the Cardano ecosystem, but goddamn, the American people have to do it. And the world will rejoice because we can return to being a bastion of democracy and actually be something better than what we were. Crypto is the deep state. It's the antidote, my friend. As someone from Croatia, Vivek, like cake. I always think of Vivek from Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind. Seems to be best candidate. Young person. How about we have somebody that was born like in the second half of the 20th century as opposed to the first half as our leader? The central banks need to go. Yes, sir, they do. Nice. I went to the summit in Dubai a few weeks ago. Incredible. Thank you so much for being there. We really enjoyed it. I love what you're saying, positive. Absolutely. I'm going to do an America tour one of these days. Just go all around, talk to everybody and say, hey, you know what? You're in charge, not them. Let's take our power back. Yes, Iceland did hold the banksters accountable. Absolutely did. I feel this guy's pain. The passion is real. Well, I feel the American people's pain. It's so crazy because you can see it in the culture. In the 1980s, The Simpsons came out. It was a very transformative show in my life and so many people of my generation. I think it started in 1988. And if you pull back the layers of The Simpsons and you look at the basic premise, you have a guy who's a high school dropout who works at the local nuclear power plant in a blue-collar job. He has a stay-at-home wife and 3 kids. They have 2 cars and a house, and that's not an extraordinary thing. people didn't bat an eye in 1988. They said, oh, yeah, you could sustain a family by that. Now, 2 college-educated people can barely afford to rent and have a single car. In many cases, they have to take the bus because there's just not enough money go around. How is it you can be in a more productive place in life, have a higher wage in life, but your buying power is less than Homer Simpson from 1988? Because they robbed us all. It's called inflation. They destroyed the money, the politicians did, to pay for their wars and their graft and all these other things. They stole it from us. Okay, and it wasn't a barrel of gun. They just did it through printing money. That's why they hate crypto so much, because it's honest. It's that simple. What is your opinion of NAD and IV therapy? Okay, so NAD is a class of drugs, supplements, or whatever you want to call it. And there's all these other things that are floating around, like metformin and rhabdomyosin and these other things. And basically people are, and you're absolutely right, constitutional republic based upon democratic consent. You have to give me that. But anyway, back to the NAD. So with the NAD, basically it's just a class of things, and that people seem to think that it helps with cellular energy and mitochondrial health, amongst other things. So there are 3 books, if you're really curious about anti-aging, which are really good because they put everything together and they're awesome and well respected. So Lifespan from Peter Attia. Actually, let me bring them up. I'll actually share them right now with you guys, because I want to make sure I get the titles right. And getting old these days, you know. Every time you get sick, it actually inflames your brain. Let's see here. Lifespan. David Sinclair. That's exactly right. All right. So I'm going to bring all these books up. I'm going to show you guys. And these are the 3 books that you need to know. Let's see here. Peter. Outlive. Yeah, see, that's why we're doing it. And my good friend Peter Diamandis and Life Force. Yeah, Tony Robbins too. Why is Tony Robbins writing an anti-aging book? Although, you know, he wrote it with a doctor, so we'll give him credit. Okay, so you guys ready for this? Wah! Okay, 3 books. So you got Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. And it's written by David Sinclair. Sinclair is like the guy at Harvard for anti-aging. He's got a lot of really cool ideas and things he's doing, and he created the information theory of aging, and he talks a lot about the state of the art in the science. Then you got Outlive by Peter Attia. He's a doctor. And this is kind of like the Bible of anti-aging. So he breaks down 4 different categories: your diet, your exercise, your emotional health, and your sleep. And he gives us a collection of recommendations of things that you can do that basically are science-based to radically improve your health span and lifespan. So lifespan is how long you physically live, and health span is how long you feel pretty good while you're living it. Nobody wants to live to 100 if when they get to 50, they get Alzheimer's and they spend the next 50 years in memory care. And finally, you got Life Force, which is strangely written by Tony Robbins combined with Peter Diamandis. And actually, a surprisingly good book. You know, there's a lot of really, really good people. Peter Diamandis and Robert Harari kind of work with them. And there's a lot of great breakthroughs there. So if you're curious about anti-aging, those are the definitive 3 books to start with. And you'll get an enormous amount of information. And, you know, they're what, $20 each, so $60, and you'll be kind of caught up with the state of the art of where the industry's at. So the reality is that no matter who you are, if you want to live a long time, it's not about taking a drug. There are 4 things you have to do. You have to do them well before you even have the conversation about anti-aging. I do not do them well yet. Very hard as a CEO to do them well because you need time. You have to eat right. You have to have appropriate level of physical activity and exercise. You have to sleep well every night, and you have to get your emotional health in order. Okay. If you don't do those 4 things, I guarantee you, all the science shows you'll be in an early grave and your health span will be dramatically compromised, meaning that even if you live to 75, you're the guy getting cancer, diabetes, you're the guy getting heart disease, you're the guy getting some lifestyle problem. Guaranteed. Now, if you do all 4 of those things right, it is not a guarantee that you'll live healthy. Not a guarantee, because you still could get a rare, weird ass cancer, or still could die of a coincidence. You know, there's all kinds of things that could happen. However, your chance of those things happening gets cut down dramatically. Then and only then do you talk about the next level up, which is supplements, drugs, and medical interventions. So that's where you can talk about hyperbarics. That's where you can talk about NAD and rhabdomyosin and metformin. That's where you can talk about calorie restricted diets. That's where you can talk about injection of stem cells and exosomes and these types of things. Okay. But don't even think about those things. Don't even talk about those things. They don't matter. They don't exist, because they will increase your life a few years, maybe a decade if you're lucky. Maybe you get 2 decades, but you're going to lose 2 decades by having the core of your lifestyle wrong. So if your diet's wrong, you're overweight, you don't work out, your sleep shit. If you look at just people that work night shift, they die like 15 to 16 years or earlier if they work night shift through their whole life than non-night shift workers, because their sleep schedule is shit. Think about that. Just working night shift will kill you. So everything you gain currently from the state of the art in anti-aging means nothing if those 4 core are not right. Okay, so those 3 books will kind of take you through it, give you all the evidence, talk about the state of the art. And then there's plenty of things in the functional medicine world that will help you establish those 4 things correctly. And you got to rebuild your life around it. It's very hard. I get it. I don't do it myself as well as I need to. That's why I'm overweight. But we'll get there. It's a journey, not a destination. And once you're there, then you can talk about the next level up. And that's the stuff I'm very fascinated in, which is how do you combine different modalities together to actually start getting additional years in both life and health span. And the good news is there's a whole wave of drugs and research and other things that are coming that if you have good foundations, you really can expand the human lifespan by a decade or 2. The night shift can be managed with a consistent schedule. You say that, but it can't. And the reason being is everybody else lives on a day shift. So you have 2 options on a night shift. You can either just ignore the world and keep a consistent schedule and pretend like the world doesn't exist. And you basically get very socially isolated and your emotional health goes to hell. Or you can participate in the world, and then your sleep schedule goes to hell. So unless you live with a group of people that also work the night shift, like oil rig or these types of things, your entire social group is on that night shift side of things, the odds are that it's going to fall apart. You always think about your environment. This guy begged at least 10 other platforms to join his project. He's a scammer. He's a fraudulent guy. Watch my YouTube video where I take you all through it and how he's begging. Oh no. Ah. Why do you even watch me? Why are you even here? Sure. Kind of extreme statements. Maybe you could nuance that. I'm sorry, I missed the first part. What's the extreme statement part of it? You need a personal trainer, a personal chef, and a shaman. This is my shaman. Charles, any chance of doing a fireside chat with Caitlin Long? Good friends with Caitlin, and I'd love to do a fireside chat with her one of these days. I've done a few of them, and it'd be fun to do it again. We always run into each other because we're neighbors up in Wyoming. Pentagon audit failed. 6 years, 3 trillion in accountability. Yeah, it's true. Terrible tragedy. Just got to move on. All that Pentagon money that's lost. Chaz and Ginger Snaps. I'll see if Tam wants to do one over in Abu Dhabi because we'll be there next week. Charles, did Kraken tell you to go fuck yourself? No. We like Kraken. We get along with them. They're another Wyoming-based business. Ah, these guys. Just toxicity, 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 toxicity. And why? What do they gain from it? Who are they? Top Form Charles, EDI update, please, sir. We're working. We got the network stack measured in various different ways. There's 8 different metrics in EDI, 8 of them to play around with. A lot of fun. We're sending the team actually down to Abu Dhabi to talk to the ADGM and also talk to the people in Dubai at VARA. It'd be also cool to see if we can get Ras Al Khaimah. And what we're trying to do is actually showcase EDI to governing bodies that create sandboxes and regulate cryptocurrencies and say this should be the definitive metric used for regulation. And I think there's a really, really good chance that we can get that done next year. Now, what will happen is that they'll add some additional requirements and questions, which means it'll version the EDI and improve the EDI. But then over time, it grows and it gets more impressive. My goal would be for EDI to eventually work its way to CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko and all these other things. You can see right next to cryptocurrency, in addition to the market cap and the price, the decentralization metric, and for Messari to use and so forth. That'd be a lot of fun. But that team's working real hard. Daniel Wood, and there's a few others that are working on it. And they really thought comprehensively and systematically about the 8 different areas that you can have that are in centralization or decentralization of the project. And my hope is that it can become a North Star for the government of Cardano as they continue to decentralize things. Charles, are you still taking Lion's Mane? Absolutely. I mix it in with my coffee. And I have cacao and Lion's Mane together. It's very nice. Favorite food spot in Vegas? There's actually a lot of really good restaurants there. There's a Wagyu place that specializes in Wagyu that's in the Palm. That's really, really good. What else they got? The Golden Steer. That's Elvis's favorite place. There's dozens of these things. Charles has a fork tongue, says you, Martin Luther. Man. Oh, okay. He's a Craig Wright fan. It's okay. Don't worry, we'll eventually come up with a cure for that. Any updates on aliens in the ranch? I don't have any aliens in the ranch. Well, maybe I do, but not for you guys. Change the lobster. No, it's Logan. He's always on the mic. We love Logan. He's my guy. Logan the lobster. You guys named him. Golden Steer is the bomb. This guy knows what's up. Charles sponsors censorship. But how? Like, who did we censor? How's the health center? We're up to 5,000 patients. How about that at Hoskinson Health and Wellness? 5,000 patients, half dozen providers, and it's growing like a weed. Actually, phase 2 is under construction. We're right now in the thick of things with blueprints. We're really working hard. And I do believe within a reasonable period of time, we should be able to break ground on phase 2, which will add a lot more stuff. It'll triple the size of the clinic and our capabilities, and that'll actually get us in a position where we can start human trials for some of the research that we want to do for anti-aging. So patient volume is really increasing. My hope is to get it to about 10 to 12,000, and that'll cover about a third of the population of Gillette, broader Campbell County. That's about as good as it gets. So it's been an extraordinary ride, and really a kudos to the staff there. It's already made a huge improvement in public health in Campbell County. A lot of internists, a lot of family practitioners we brought in. They needed 3 doctors for every 1 doctor that was there, and we're starting to Starting to actually hire some specialists as well, in addition to lifestyle people. How's JJ? Well, he got a promotion. He's chief of staff now. He's doing good. You mentioned you had alien shit update for Joe Rogan show. Any sneak peek for us? Well, we do have the update of the paper coming that we wrote, and that's going to be published in the spring of 2024. Turns out it takes a really long time to go through 800 spherules. Do, do, do. How many helicopters do you have? I just got the Blackhawk. We use it for fire service and ranch work. Do you follow Rhonda Patrick in her research with saunas? Absolutely. I've seen her on Joe Rogan, and I think she was also on Huberman podcast. By the way, Huberman's misinformation now. I've had videos taken down, including AMAs for medical misinformation. So thank you, YouTube. You're number one, man. You're number one. Oh, WHO, you're so good. Oh, WHO. Oh, my God. It's so great. God save us. We need to decentralize these systems. I'm sorry, we can't rely on Elon Musk spending $40 billion just so that we have a medium where we can express ourselves without a transnational body saying what's right and what's wrong, especially when they're captured by China. Charles, do you think you'll be getting a visit from the DOJ anytime soon? No. Charles, you ever been chased by a cliff racer? Absolutely. Killed my high elf. Bastard cliff racer, traumatizing my childhood. Hate you so much, cliff racer. Hate you so much. Great technique. Well, you know, I have to work on it. Cryptocurrency guy, you know, got to do things to survive. Can you please elaborate on the woolly mammoth revival that's being done by Colossal? I'd recommend you take a look at their website. Don't know what's public and what's not, so I can't talk too much about it, but they are on schedule and making great progress towards resurrecting the woolly mammoth. I think before the end of the decade. So to use saunas, yeah, I got one downstairs. It's infrared sauna, gets up to 170. How about that? Any news on the World Mobile Partnership? How is your relationship with them? I love Mickey. We do well, man. We just saw him at the summit. We're doing well. Hi, how are you, Charles? Actually doing pretty good. You know, got love in my heart. Life is okay. It's all going to be okay. Surely science has bigger priorities than creating a hairy elephant. Well, every single day, dozens of mammals go extinct. Every single day. And they say, conservation, conservation. We're just going to kill 3 billion people. It's not going to happen. So we have two options. We either can just accept that our grandchildren will have half the biodiversity that we have today, that we grew up with, just like we have half the biodiversity that our grandparents grew up with, or we have to figure out how to bring them back. So you need a symbol, and that symbol shall be the woolly mammoth. because it's fucking huge. Everybody knows mammoths. They love mammoths. Fluffy elephants, come on, that's cool. And then once you have that, you can bring back the rest, and we can have a real global conversation about how do we restore the many, many, many species that have been going extinct because of overpopulation and human activity. And yeah, people love the woolly mammoth. Come on. Come on now. Any advice for a male who's single in the same age as you? If you're asking, because he mentioned single, so I assume that you're asking for relationship advice, or else, because that's all you gave me. It'd be like, I'm a doctor, talk about medicine, or, I'm an engineer thinking about career. You're a single guy, you're looking for love. Okay, so same age, so 35, 36, somewhere in the mid 30s. Well, I don't know if you're divorced or, if you have kids or where you're at in life, but single most important thing you can do is work on yourself and just try to balance everything out in life. Lower the debt, get yourself healthy, work on your body, really get your mental health in order. Think deeply about that. Just become super well adjusted, positive person. What that does is it creates a beacon, and then people naturally gravitate towards you. And then once they do, then it's very easy to date. Don't go looking for people. Make yourself a person people go looking for. What are your views on the WEF and Klaus Schwab? Mr. You'll own nothing and be happy. I went to Davos one time, and foundation time was under Nathan Kaiser, and all those Swiss people are like, oh, Charles, you have to go to Davos. You have to go. So I went, flew into Zurich, took the train up to Davos. First thing is it's horrendously expensive. Everything is $10, $120, $200,000. Everything's insanely expensive. Like hotel rooms, $5,000 a night. And you get this badge classism. Different color badges mean you can go to different areas in Davos. And I had the lowest tier, so we weren't allowed to go many places. Security every place you went. And it was just one gargantuan, I'm more important than you fest. Every interaction, every discussion, every interface with people was who has more money, who has more prestige, who has more power. That was everything. It was like, where are you in the hierarchy? And then it was a virtue signaling contest. Every place I went, every person I talked to, oh, let's talk about DEI. Oh, let's talk about ESG. Oh, let's talk about SDG. Flew here on a private jet. Okay. Every single person trying to prove to you that they're not a horrible human being, which makes me believe that they probably are horrible human beings. You got kids in the dungeon and shit. It's like, God, why do you have to wake up every day and like prove to me that you're worth the oxygen you're consuming? Just do shit. Talk about the cool stuff you're doing. Don't go and tell me, how cool you are. But that was Davos. It was just a disgusting affair. And I said, I'm never going back. It's not going to be this thing we're doing. We thought we could make it an annual event. There's a cryptocurrency pavilion. You know what? We'll leave that to the Swiss. They're very proud of it. There's not a lot of authenticity there. Now, there are a lot of really powerful people that go to Davos. It's scary because when a lot of really powerful people who virtue signal get together, they start believing that they should run your life. They start believing that they know better than you, and then they have this inside track on the fourth industrial revolution. And that revolution is going to be a fundamental reevaluation of everything. And they just want you to live in a world where you eat bugs and you own nothing and you'll be happy because they'll tell you to be happy. It's pretty dystopian and pretty terrible, the world they want to give us and the way they think about things. And so the best antidote for that is decentralization of power. Deconsolidate things. Give people control of their identity, their money. Give people control of consent. Voting, identity, and money always must be in the hands of the people. Every single thing the WEF people are doing, old Klausy is doing, is trying to consolidate those things and take them not only out of the hands of the few, but put them in the hands of a transnational, unelected, permanent minority, some special group of people, and say that even governments no longer get to decide these things. So who you vote for is completely immaterial to how the world runs. They're globalists. And the minute we do that, we go down that road, you'll wake up in a dystopian hellscape in about 30, 40 years. And it's being accelerated by technology. So it scares me. It really does. And that's why blockchain is the technology of freedom. And you always go back to those same three drum beats, no matter what the fuck someone is trying to tell you, DEI or ESG, or whatever. Say, do I have control over my own identity and my data? Do I have control over my voice, my consent, my voting? And do I have control over my money? And if what they're doing violates any of those fundamental three things, they are the enemy. They're trying to destroy society. They're trying to put society in the hands of a few and basically have unlimited power forever and tell you how to live your life. Now, if they're helping you do those three things, then we can have a conversation. But I'm just done with them. I'm done with the WEF people, and I'm done with this globalist mindset. We went from 2 weeks to slow the spread to papers, please, in a 2-year period. Forced vaccination of so many people. There's so many horrible things happened that I never thought in my lifetime I would see in the United States of America. And we had them there, and they didn't apologize. They just, let's move on, but we'll do it again. And now they're signing transnational treaties to make it much easier to do. We're just waiting for the next one. And every time you do it, you lose an enormous amount of freedoms along the way. And that's WEF in a nutshell. So no, it's disgusting to me. It's crazy that WEF exists. No, it's not crazy at all. Why wouldn't it exist? People want power, so they're just going to do it. Well, you eat the bugs. Well, I already do. I mean, I eat scorpions. I like scorpions. Scorpions are nice. Plans to attend F Denver. They never invite me. I have to kind of like sneak in. No, the venue's terrible for it. I like the organizers. I like what they're trying to do, but they have like 3,000 extra people, and everybody's densely packed in, and it's almost impossible to get in. And it's sad because if they had just picked a different venue, like the Denver Convention Center, for example, then it would be a lot of fun. But it's too many people for what they want. If they want to keep that venue, they should cap it about 500, 750, and it'd be a lot more fun. Nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. Okay, so if you're in the military, an airline pilot, healthcare employee, education employee, you were told if you don't get this, you lose your job. You get a dishonorable discharge. You get kicked out of the military. It doesn't matter if you're a SOCOM operator, Green Beret, 20 years experience, 19 years in, right before you're 20. You'll be kicked out. Could have fought in 3 wars, had a Medal of Honor. Oh, you didn't get vaccinated? You're out. They were forced. I'm sorry, that's not consent. Just put sex in the place of vaccination. Well, if you don't sleep with me, you're going to lose your job. What do we call that? If you don't get a vaccination, you lose your job. Is that consent? Is that consent? No. Don't fucking lie to us. It's pathetic. They coerced and forced people into this and harmed a lot of people along the way. The other thing is informed consent. It's the basis of all medical ethics. Day one in medical school, they start talking about medical ethics, the doctrine of informed consent. If you do something to a patient, you must explain to the patient the consequences of the thing you're doing, both positive and negative. Doc, I want to get a back surgery. Well, let's talk about it. Doc, I want to get a bunion surgery. Well, let's talk about it. It's not all rosy sunshine. There could be side effects. There could be permanent issues. Go get a brain tumor removed. Hey, you might go deaf. Okay, that's medicine in a nutshell. Then when you say as a policy, as a journal, that anything negative about vaccines we can't publish because we don't want to promote vaccine hesitancy, then how are you succeeding in the doctrine of informed consent? If every single thing must be positive or neutral, nothing negative. And anything that's negative, you always have to say the catch-all phrase, but we still recommend you get vaccinated. It's extraordinary to me. And I've never seen a disgusting violation of medical ethics at this scale, at this level across the entire world. And it's turned a lot of people super fucking bitter. And when you say bullshit like that, nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. You ever fly on a fucking plane? You ever go into a school? You ever go into a hospital? People were told, and unconstitutionally, by the way, because in New York and other places, the Supreme Courts have decided it was, and they're getting their jobs back, that they have to get a vaccination or they lose their job. A vaccination that was not FDA approved. You know, they tell us on the rejuvenation side, you got to do 10, 15 years of trials of stem cells on rats and things like that to even think about injecting somebody. And every normal vaccine takes 10 to 15 years. It took 10 years to get the Ebola vaccine through and all this other stuff. They tell people that, but in this case, they say one clinical trial was enough. And we can now give this to billions of people and we can't talk about the side effects. And that's an example why people are so angry. Because even though you feel that way, half of America feels the other way, and there's no escape valve because they know it's going to happen again. Because no one went to jail, no one said they're sorry, the policy will be the same. And it doesn't matter if you die, it doesn't matter if there are consequences, it will happen again. And if you speak out against it, probably this AMA will be taken down. I've now had 2 videos taken down because at least one person will click the button because they're propagandized, and now it's gone. It's so safe. Anybody who dares say otherwise has to be silenced and deplatformed. It's extraordinary to me. And by the way, I was on the other side of it. If you go back to my videos in 2021, I got vaxxed. I took the Pfizer vaccine. I trusted these bastards. Just extraordinary to me. My sister, a nurse in New York, lost her job because she didn't want to get the shot. She already had COVID, though, so it was pointless to get the shot. They lied again. They said natural immunity is less than vaccinated immunity when they knew it was the opposite. They lied again. There you go. Now you know one person, his sister. Go fuck yourself. Charles, what's the status of the Nessie restaurant? All the top Wagyu meats to be served, or only bison? Will midnight and dusk be allowed like Ada? Any partner chain, any Cardano native asset will accept. So Nessie's is on hold. I own the Hilltop. I'll give you guys the whole backstory on it because it's a pretty cool backstory. So I live in Wheatland, Wyoming, part-time, and I got this big ranch there, and it's a beautiful bison ranch. And I drove out to Wheatland. There's 3,500 people in Wheatland. It's a very small town. And there's only a few restaurants like Vimbo's and Windy Peaks, and there was the Hilltop. So I got in my head that it would be just this amazing idea to buy the Hilltop, which is right next to the golf course, and refurbish the whole place and build this beautiful restaurant. I'll call it Nessie's after the Loch Ness Monster, and have Scottish cuisine and serve bison there and water buffalo and all kinds of exotic meats and hunted meats like venison, and kind of make it a destination. I even bought a dinosaur skeleton. I actually own a skeleton of a plesiosaur, and I was going to hang it in the atrium and say, look, there's Nessie's. Look how great this is. So I buy it. During the negotiations, I find out the person who I bought it from, who I was buying it from, was being sued by her business partner who claimed that they own 30%. And then I talked to their lawyer about it. He said, well, it's none of your business. That's why we didn't disclose it. It's like the fact that you're being sued by your business partner and they claim they own 30% of the property that I'm trying to buy is not my concern. And you're like, where did you get your law degree from, man? It's like, why are you still on the bar? So it was nuts to actually even get the property. And then I find out that property used to be the clubhouse of the golf course. They split off in the 70s, but they didn't do it the right way. So all the deed was wrong and all this. So it was a nuts to acquire it. So I finally got it. There's all these problems. There's asbestos in the building and it's falling apart and all these things. It's like, okay. So I start refurbishing the whole thing. So we're moving along. And I say, all right, well, The parking situation is terrible. It's sharing the parking space with the National Guard, the golf course, and my place. And it's too small. If I build this big restaurant, too many people will come. The parking situation will be terrible. So can I expand the parking lot? No. There's just nowhere to expand the parking lot. So I still have it and it's in there. And I winterized it and I'm just like, what do I do with this? So here's what we're going to do. We're setting up a not-for-profit. We're going to start a members-based club, and it's going to basically replace what the golf courses club was. We'll call it the Hoskinson Club. It'll be nice. It'll be, serve all kinds of great whiskeys and have a cigar room and really cool place for watching football and baseball and golf and all these other things. And we'll have video golf in the basement and pool tables in the basement and darts and all the other things you'd want from a nice social club, and have memberships in the golf course. We'll work a deal with them. They can roll their members in, gives them something to do during the winter time. And then we'll have power plant and other people in town join and, get the membership count high. Now, I still want to do Nessie's, but that site I bought, the Hilltop, is just not going to work for that. So what we're likely going to do is buy something else in town. They tried to sell me the A, which is the old liquor store there, but it's in rough shape. And we'll have to demo the whole thing and build a parking lot and all that other stuff, but I just haven't had the time. So it will happen. That site is on hold, but it will happen because I want a good restaurant in town, and I still have the plesiosaur, and I would like to show you guys how cool it is. And will we be able to pay with crypto? 100%. We'll accept all major cryptos. Sounds like a cool social club. Yeah, we're going to make it really cool. It'll be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Charles, why are you so cute? See, you got to take some good ones. There we go. How did you meet Ran Barak? We did a very exhaustive search for CEOs, and he was the chief operating officer of Polkadot at the time. Wonderful guy, though. He used to run Symphony, and he's just very capable. The government's argument is that vaccination is a collective effort, non-vaccinated individuals impede the eradication of the virus. Well, that's true if you have a global plan for a global vaccination, like we did with smallpox and polio. It only took 300 years to eradicate them, but okay. Polio's case, it took about 70, but we're mostly gotten rid of it. But there was no plan to vaccinate the vast majority of Africa, India, and other places. No plan. So if you have billions of people that act as a reservoir, every single year comes back. We all knew that. We have epidemiological models that showed that. We live it every year with influenza. You get the flu, I get the flu. Just got rhinovirus. Man, it was tough. And no matter how much you vaccinate people, unless you have a plan to force vaccinate the entire world, you'll have a reservoir for billions of people to get it. The other thing is it mutates rapidly, and it escaped the vaccines very rapidly. All the vax people in the United States got coronavirus again. Okay. So what they did is they said there's a crisis of the unvaxxed. If only 100% of America got vaccinated, we'd be totally immune to it. In less than 4 months later, some guy gets on a plane, travels from some place that wasn't vaxxed, and lo and behold, they have the new variant, and now we all get sick again. That's what happened. We knew that. It's a bullshit argument. Doesn't exist. It's a bullshit argument. Greetings from Scotland, Charles. If you're ever over here, I'll buy you a dram. Aye, we'll have us some fun, huh? A wee bit of rough and tumble. Do-do-do. Hello from Longmont. Will you be attending any local mushroom events next year? I lost my mushroom farm. It burnt down. I haven't had a chance to rebuild it. I would love. You still get protection from the variants with the vax. Says you. The efficacy is less than 15 to 20%. And also, if you already get COVID, why wouldn't you also have protection from that? Oh, no, we can't talk about natural immunity. We won't even do a single study. It's impossible, guys. It's impossible. It's so crazy too, is we have these universal vaccines they're working on. The military had one that Walter Reed came up with. And there's a few other teams that have been working on it, and they seem to actually be very effective, but they're stuck in the normal FDA approval process. So it's such a horrible thing that the vaccine that doesn't work after 6 months because a variant comes and we get sick again, that vaccine, we have to approve it. But then the vaccine that the military came up with that is universal against all types of COVID and would have long-term, long-lasting immunity, that we have to go through normal FDA process, spend 10 to 15 years on that. Okay. All right. Yeah, Google Walter Reed universal COVID vaccine if you're interested in it. U.S. military came up with it. It's a great design too. By the way, the safest vaccine on the market was the one that Novavax came up with. It uses the protein subunit with an adjuvant, and it's based on a technology that's been around for a really, really long time. This comes from Chilean bark, of all things. The hepatitis B vaccine in the 1980s was the first to use this technique. So 30 plus years of history behind it. And they kept that off the market for a long, long time, even though it was the most effective. Go figure. Would you explain any of the existential risks associated with synthetic biology? Sure. You can take any pandemic causing agent, like, for example, Omicron, which has got an R value that's like crazy, crazy high, like over 10. So it's more infectious than measles. And you can take that and you can combine it with an ailment like rabies or whatever you care, Lassa fever, pick your favorite horrible, super evil virus, and you put them together and you can basically get your peanut butter and jelly. So you can have an agent that is super infectious, but also super high mortality, super lethal. And then you can push it through. So that is happening real time at labs across the world. And they do it through gain of function research or whatever the fuck the parlance is now, because gain of function is no longer gain of function. And they do it and they say it's for vaccination research. And if any of these escape, it could kill half the world. And there are small teams, usually, dozen scientists, maybe 3 dozen scientists, and there's thousands of these facilities that think about these things and play around with these things. And the regulation is not really there unless you think 80-year-old senators are up for the task of explaining how synthetic biology works. Now, I've developed a bit of domain expertise in this technology because we genetically engineer plants on a regular basis using CRISPR-Cas9, and obviously we're resurrecting dead animals too. So there are a lot of scientists floating around in my orbit these days that do synthetic biology, and the techniques to modify an elephant genome or to modify a plant genome are very similar to the techniques one would use to design a virus. And if we can hire people that have those capabilities, anybody can hire people who have those capabilities. And this is mostly an unregulated market. So it's something we need to pay a lot of attention to. And the great tragedy of the COVID debate of whether it came from a lab or not wasn't we should blame China and be really angry with China for a lab leak. It was, let's take a step back and recognize that it's not okay to have small groups of people be able to create something that can kill half the human race. And maybe, just maybe, we should look at this from the same lens we look at the Atomic Energy Commission and nuclear weapons. And instead, what we did is just went, no, 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 conspiracy theorists, you're bad people, and deplatform anybody who even dares talk about a lab leak, and just move on and let these scientists continue doing what they do. That is the reality we live in. It's a fact. Charles, with Mithril, is it possible to send a node to another colonized planet and from Earth a few years later make a link with the terrestrial node, and this node will then link all fine? With Ouroboros Genesis, it's possible to do that. You don't even need Mithril. Charles, I want to custody all of my medical data securely in a way that can interact with the future medical LLM and other AI. Will Midnight help? That's why we built it. Yeah, and it's actually multiple nightmare fuels. You got the AI, Q plus with Q star with OpenAI. You got the SynBio. You got the Grey Goo problem with nanotechnology, and quantum computers can do some really crazy shit. And then obviously the dystopian stuff of these global systems. Blockchain could be very evil if you're not careful. 5 exponential technologies. There was no lab leak. Meh. Meh. I'll show you guys a little document here. I'm gonna put from DARPA. So this is a document from 2018, and it was titled Diffuse. Wah! And it was a grant proposal to DARPA, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, University of North Carolina, Duke Medical School, the USGS National Wildlife Health Center. Oh, why are they involved? Palo Alto Research Center, and obviously DARPA, and EcoHealth with the big guy up top. And basically, the executive summary is to go and look for bats and start cataloging the stuff the bats have and study coronaviruses, and then do some research to basically produce vaccines, which will hopefully be useful against those particular coronaviruses. So we will build host pathogen spatial models to predict bat species compositions of caves in Southeast Asia, parameterized with full inventory of host virus distribution or field tests, 3 caves in Yunnan prominence, create unique global data sets on bat host viral relationships. Yay! And we'll evaluate SARS-CoV on cave bats, broad immunal boost, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, look at all these people. So there's Dr. Shi, that's the bat lady from Wuhan Institute of Virology, will conduct viral testing on all the collected samples, building assays and some humanized mouse work. Humanized mice? Those are mice with human immune systems, and they use gain of function on them and actually infect them with the virus and explore what the viruses do. And the idea is to build vaccines against it. So this document right here is literally a blueprint for how one would build a COVID virus. And lo and behold, didn't get funded because DARPA had the wherewithal to say maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But right there on the document is the very person who ran the lab where we think it leaked from. Big document, goes on many, many pages. And they talk about how they're going to do it, how they get the bats, what they're going to do to the humanized mice. Oh, look at those little mice right there. Okay, there we go. On and on and on and on and on and on. And what is the date on this document? Let's take a look here, kids. March 24th, 2018. How about that? How about that? But no, it's just a complete coincidence that they were talking about doing this and they were doing it in the very place that they were doing it as the epicenter of the pandemic. No, it's natural origin. Why do you pretend to be an expert on anything? All you have is a high school diploma, nothing more. That's not true. I have a college degree, Elizabeth. I had a college degree at 18 years old. Careful what you read. Actually, no, this is the great irony. COVID was a DARPA project. DARPA rejected the grant to go to build COVID because they said it wasn't safe. It was too risky for DARPA. Is it a leak if it was purposeful? No, it wasn't purposeful. It's just one of the lab techs got sick. It was a lab with a poor safety record. That's the point. No, you don't. That was proven. Actually, I do. Look it up. When I was 18, I graduated from Front Range Community College. Got an associate's degree there, and then transferred Metro, and then later on transferred to CU Boulder. And I was in a dual program and got all these graduate credits, but never finished it. You can just email them, Liz, if you want to. Email Front Range. Go ahead. No, it's easier just to be in my channel. Bark at me. I'll leave you to your Theranos disaster. I miss 2021. I don't miss 2021. It was a terrible time, guys. Everybody was making money for nothing. You once told me to email JJ about a mycology job when you rebuild your farm, but I don't know where to find his email address. Well, you got to find it, Scott. You got to find it. That's the first challenge, is the proactivity to find a way to communicate with my chief of staff. You see, if you can't figure that out, well, that doesn't bode well for you. Charles, do you trust tap water? You know, I drink Atlantic water. It's the best water in the world. You can drink it right out of the tap in Iceland. All the streams are clean, but that's the water I drink. It's very, very good. Hi, Charles. Say hi to Julie. She listened to you a lot. I think you're talking about the personal trainer Julie, because there's also Julie Hall and dozens of other Julies in the orbit. But in any event, whichever Julie you're talking about, hi, Julie. Any info about release Lace, also a NAMI wallet be replaced by a work alongside of it? So let's talk a little bit about it. So Lace is in good hands. There's a great team that's building it, and that team is growing and it's gaining capabilities. There's a lot of shakeups and things because we want to be on a very aggressive release cadence. And obviously, we acquired NAMI, and my hope is long term that NAMI can be merged into Lace, and that Lace has a beginner mode called NAMI mode, and you basically just click a button and you can have the NAMI style interface and have that NAMI simplicity. And you click a button, then you have the full wallet function. So I think there is a way to merge those two and keep them up to date, keep them going. But there's a lot of discussions right now. What's the best way to do that? So right now they're going to follow a parallel track, and at some point they'll intersect. Whether that's 3 months, 6 months, a year, who knows? But funds are safe. It's okay. Any updates on Legends of Valor? Haven't heard anything about it in a while. Any plans to get it started soon? I wish I had time to work on it. I wrote a lot of dialogue. I wrote the whole plot framework. I think people are really going to like it. There's a lot of foundational creative work that has to be done, but overall, I think that we have a path forward to it. But the problem is, I want to build it as a AAA game, and that takes about 3 to 6 years to do, depending on whether you want to do a Larian or a Rockstar, or if you want to be a bit more conservative with your ambition. And then the other side of it is that there's a lot of creativity that has to be brought in. A whole game system has to be built. World building has to be done, and you have to build a good core team for those types of things. And I haven't had the time to do it, but when I do, it's going to be magical and amazing. A lot of people have come to me and said, "Hey, can you outsource it to us?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to go down that road. I want to do it myself with them." But and of course, we'll pull all the Cardano magic into it. We have a game studio called Reflect. Their first game is coming out in March, called Girl Fight. They're also doing the whole digital twin concept, and they have a lot of really cool ideas. So they were at NFT XLV, and that's being led by Les Borsai and Eric and Josh, and they're doing a real good job over there. No, it's Julie from England. Julie. Oh my, Michael Parsons, Julie. Yeah, okay, okay. Not Charles again. Well, I'm glad she's well. Meow, meow, meow. Charles, build the Batcave. It's kind of weird when you think about it. Like middle-aged guy living with a Robin, who's like 12 years old in the Batcave. Get away with that in the 1970s television, but I don't know these days, guys. No one's ever done a lobster cave. Lobster caves are fun. Charles, how long did it take to develop Bitcoin? No, I didn't develop it. Bitcoin probably was about 2 to 3 years based upon the work of a solo coder. And if you look at the way the code evolved when Hal Finney was looking at it. So if I had to guess, I think that whoever Satoshi was started working around 2007, 2008, and that the bulk of the work was done in 2008 and then was launched early 2009. And it looks like it was a single coder when you actually do stellometry on the C++ code from version 1. There's not a lot of variation from line to line. It's pretty consistent with a sole author on it or a sole coder. It could have been a team, but only one person wrote the code for it. And if I had to guess, I'd say that it was done by Adam Back. He's the most likely candidate because he created proof of work when he was working for Microsoft and was kind of in that community and was following along. Charles, how close is the world to building Terminators? Well, you got the Pentagon saying that they want to give autonomous drones the ability to make independent kill decisions. So I'd say 3 to 5 years. We got Terminators. 3 to 5 years. The next war will have Terminators. Charles, does your ranch produce any real food? Yeah, absolutely. 120 bison a year get hunted, and that translates to probably 30,000 pounds of meat. When do you see the singularity taking place? Probably in the next 5 to 10 years at the current rate of progress. So if you take a look at the LLMs, what you have with LLMs is really a layered approach in terms of capability enhancement. So the first thing you have to do is the training of the transformer network. So you have transformers, you have to train them against huge sets of data. So that takes 6 to 12 months in a giant cluster of H100 NVIDIA graphics cards, and they're running and getting super hot, and billions of dollars is being spent on the electricity to do that. And you have to buy billions of dollars worth of them. Now, those training, once you're done, you have model, and they'll have parameters. So that's how many neurons are in it. How many transformers are inside of it. And that could be 60 million or 60 billion or 100 billion or whatever. And actually, we're starting to move to multi-trillion parameter models. Now, larger the model, the more expensive the inference is for that model. So if you have a high parameter model, you might have a situation where to run a query against it takes a lot of effort, a lot of GPU power. So there's a balance between the parameter size and the inference cost. Now, there's a new type of hardware that's being developed by companies like Rain AI, Rain like the water, not brain, Rain AI, and others called neuromorphic computing, where they're actually building memristors that are idealized for this type of computation, not just giant linear algebra machines, but like the GPUs, but things that are custom built for inference and training. And they're about 1,000 times more energy efficient, which means that you can take something with a kilowatt and do it in 1 watt with a neuromorphic computer. So those will enter market in the next 2 to 4 years. And they're going to be a game changer in terms of that first step. But then you also need data, and you need what's called RLHF. Now, data is pretty self-explanatory. The problem is that there are all these edge cases, especially in computer vision and other things. So if you're like Tesla, how often do you have a semi-truck driving on an icy road, its front tires explode, it rolls and bursts into flames right in front of you? You're not going to have that in your training set, but it could happen. So what does your computer vision system do when an event like that occurs? Well, what if you could simulate that? It's called synthetic data. And so there's all these startups now that are forming that are doing synthetic data. And they're basically allowing you to imagine imagine events that are rare or unique and add it to your training set. And basically that's as good as the real thing from the purposes of training a large language model. So Syn data is already here and it's getting much better. And it turns out you can actually use the LLMs to make synthetic data. So every time you have an advancement in the LLM, your synthetic data gets better. And then you can use it to train the next LLM. Now, RLHF, reinforcement learning with human feedback, is the single most time consuming effort. It's where a bunch of people sit down like a mechanical Turk and they interface with the large language model and tune it so you can have a chat GPT style experience. You ask a question, gives you an answer. That's also the alignment step where you kind of make it not tell you how to make chemical weapons and these types of things. Well, people are actually exploring how to remove the H from RLHF and have RLAIF, where you actually have artificial intelligence train and align the AI. In fact, Anthropic, for example, wrote something called like the AI Constitution, and they actually use as a notion of how they align and train Claude, which is their LLM. So there are massive advancements in AI replacing RLHF and doing RLAIF. And there are massive enhancements with the synthetic data side and massive enhancements with neuromorphic computing. These are the three foundations, amongst other things, like prompt engineering techniques and a lot of cognitive agent ideas that people are coming up with. So giving them the ability to pursue a goal long term and have long term memory, and also the token space, make that dynamic based upon the task. These are the foundations of the sparks of AGI. And all of them are near horizon, meaning that we'll have orders of magnitude improvements within 2 to 4 years. And also, being the open source world, people are creating all kinds of cognitive architectures and cognitive agents that are floating around. Okay. So all those things together, you mix them up with high competition, just even in the US market, with both open and closed source models, we're going to get to a point where LLMs will be able to replicate from an intelligence perspective what we can do and do it at a scale we couldn't imagine and emulate us as people, which means you can start replacing personnel with these things and go parallel. And suddenly a single person can have a 10,000 person organization that's quite creative and quite capable and self-approving. So I think singularity is probably 5 to 10 years, given those advancements: neuromorphic computing, synthetic data, and RLAIF. How's that for an answer? AI learning from AI content equals very bad loop feedback, destroying the model structure. Not necessarily, because you actually can red team, blue team it. And that's the magic of what's happening with synthetic data. A whole bunch of people have figured out ways to kind of manage all of that. And it always helps with goal direction. So you start with an end in mind of a collection of well-defined goals, and almost like a genetic algorithm, they can pursue it. Did Sam Altman ever respond to your invitation? No, he was too busy becoming the CEO of OpenAI again. But you never make the shots you don't take. That was a bit of a full court, end of game 3-point shot, right? Tie the game. Charles, what does Ilya Sutskever at OpenAI know what we don't? Any guesses? Google Q Star OpenAI. That's the thing that people are getting pretty excited about. Mhm, mhm. Thoughts on synthetic meat? It's the biggest waste of money I've ever seen in my life. Costs so much time, effort, and money. It's like all these vertical farming ventures that are saying, "Ah, we're gonna change agriculture by vertical farming." Well, all we can really grow is cabbage. Do you mouth tape when you sleep? Yeah, hostage tape is pretty good. Charles, what type of firearms do you own? There are certain questions you don't ask, and that's one of them. Charles, have you ever had a Mandela effect? Are you familiar with the term and known cases? Yes, I am. Bernstein versus Bernstein. Stein. Yeah. It comes from the belief that some people have that Nelson Mandela died in prison instead of becoming president of South Africa. But this situation that when you ruminate or reflect on something, for some reason, the thing you reflect on seems to be different than your memory serves. And yes, it's definitely happened to me in a very significant sense. Synthetic meat shouldn't be about money, but rather the ethics in eliminating the slitting of throats and unnecessary suffering of sentient beings. Well, yeah, I can understand that point, but why do you guys never get upset when a lion attacks a gazelle and eats it? Why is that moral and just, but when humans consume meat, it's not? I don't understand it. Bears eat salmon. The salmon suffers when it's being eaten. Everything in the food chain has something beneath it, needs it to survive. Plants probably can suffer too. People even write about it. So is it okay if your plant suffers? What if you find out this horrific pain in the plant when you cut it and eat it? Who knows? It's life. For us to exist, something must die. And when we die, our body will be consumed by fungus and bacteria. It'll eat us. I think because a lion isn't building a massive business around it and wasting. That is something a little bit better. Let's talk about that then. Sustainable farming and ethical farming. Like, for example, I raise bison. Now, I could raise them like these cattle people raise them, put them all in tightly packed pens and, have them live a terrible life and be in terror all the time and high stress and kill them quickly. Or do what I do, which is they're free range. I got 11,000 acres and they wander around and they just live life of bison. And then people pay for guided hunts. They come out, they shoot the bison, they take it, they process it. So up until the moment the bison dies, it lives basically like a wild bison and it has a great life. Now, that person gets it, they get hundreds of pounds of meat. They eat that meat, have a lot of fun with that meat. They make hamburger out of it, steaks out of it. You got prime rib, sausage, jerky, all kinds of things. It's the most delicious meat you're ever going to have because these are grass fed, free range, low stress bison. So there's no waste there because that person's going to consume all of that. That's how it should be. Also, it's real personal because when the person's eating that meat, they actually had to kill the animal to eat it. The vast majority of people don't do that anymore. So I like that model a lot more than I like the model that we currently have, which is very terrible, especially for chickens. Now, this isn't true. We don't need meat to thrive. Why inflict suffering when you don't need it? It is really, really hard in practice to actually get all the essential minerals and vitamins and fatty acids from just a plant-based diet. You can do it, and plenty of people have done it. And there's plenty of people who've gotten very sick going on a vegan diet if they haven't done it right. Again, you can do it, but humans weren't built not to consume meat. It's part of our diet. So why our teeth are the way they are. Evolution does not waste. We do both. We're omnivores, and we evolved as omnivores. So don't say we don't need it. You really do. Charles, why are you so hated by everyone in crypto? Well, 1,500 people have dialed in and been talking for 2 hours. Seem to be pretty liked here. Charles, any word on the chemical analysis of the recovered microspherules? Yeah, we actually have one in the paper we published, and we'll have a follow-up paper in spring. There's been some crazy shit that came out of ASU saying it's coal ash, and it's like the graphs are so obviously apart. But yeah, we'll clean it all up at the in the spring because we actually have the samples. We actually can do science on them. We don't just sit hypothetically thinking about these samples and just writing papers that are meaningless. But the astrophysics community, it's kind of wonky, guys. I'm still alive, vegetarian since 2012, but I take iron and vitamin B and pill. Yeah, I see what I'm saying, man. you have to think about it. A lot of people don't. But if you can get it to work, good on you. The other side of it is very important, regardless if you're omnivore, carnivore, or a vegetarian. Really, really important that you have a good microbiome because you won't digest the food properly. This is not true at all. It's not hard at all. Far more people get sick on a meat-based than plant-based diet. No, it's not true. The meat doesn't make you sick, guys. I know that all red meat causes cancer. It's refined sugar that's killing everybody. Absolutely terrible. If you took a look at people in the 19th century, they lived on a balanced diet. There weren't any refined products back then. They didn't die of diabetes or other things. It was infectious diseases that would kill them, but they seldom got cancer or other things. Refined products, whether they be plant-based or meat-based, anything that's just laden these preservatives or refined sugars or things like that, that's what's killing everybody. Your teeth can't even pierce flesh. You've obviously never met Florida Man. Is it a drinking year next year? Nope. Next year is a dry year. Although I didn't drink very much this year to begin with. Have you ever made kombucha? I have a lot of friends that drink kombucha. Some, I assume, are good people. Oh my God, high fructose corn syrup. That's the worst of the worst. This video is definitely getting taken down. People who do. Flight MH370 and the gravity-defying orbs, real or hoax? Actually, I know people who really honestly believe they know where it went down, MH370. One of these days when I actually have some time, it'd be fun to go with them and see if we can find the black box for it. Depends on what you mean with sugar. Natural sugar? No, I say refined sugar, like the high fructose corn syrups. Slow carb is the way. Mexican Coca-Cola is better than American. Yeah, because they use cane sugar in it. Much better. What's your opinion on fasting? Single best thing you can do for your health. Love fasting if it's done responsibly. Saturated fats cause heart disease when combined with excess amounts of carbs. Yeah, I see. Yeah, they always miss that last part, combined with excess amount of carbs. It's the carbs that cause it. Do. Coca Cabana. Have you done water fasting? Yeah, went 2 weeks. Charles, you represent everything wrong with crypto. All right. It's like your opinion, man. How to resolve conflict as a conflict avoiding person. I don't want to talk about it. Have you looked at testosterone replacement therapy? I'm 40, increased the quality of my life. Yeah, it is important to have the right testosterone level. You have to be really careful about it, though, because if you have excess fat, like your body fat is certainly high, when you take the testosterone, it doesn't end up as testosterone. It gets converted to other things. So you might actually not have a good outcome with that. So first thing you do before you consider testosterone replacement therapy is you go work out, do exercise, especially lift weights, lose the body fat and get to a normal body fat range. And then you measure your testosterone level. It's probably going to go way, way up. And then there, you can do more dramatic interventions if you still don't have it where it needs to go. But people are always looking for an injection or a pill. But again, those base four things, you got to get those right if you actually want to live well. And then you always add after you've done those base four things. And there's always going to be something because metabolism and genetics are different, each person. All right, we'll wrap it up here. We have about 2 more minutes. We did not get to Hosk said. So actually, let's the base two questions. Hosksaid.com. I said that I would start pulling some things from Hosk said. Do share that screen again. Wah! Here we go. Ask Charles. You were given a strange book with drawings about Cardano and Ethereum from another world. What I saw reminds me of the Codex Seraphinius. Oh, yeah, it's the old Italian book from the 80s. I keep thinking about it, would like to see it. So let's show you guys this. Yeah, this book right here. That's what he's talking about. Can you talk about it? Yeah, one of these days I'll publish the whole thing. Can you compare Cardano partner chains to Polkadot parachains? How are they similar? How are they different? The big difference is Minotaur. And refer to my midnight video and walk your way through it. Hey, I recently saw you're using Ubuntu Linux as a desktop. Curious if you made the switch entirely. No, I use every operating system, iOS and Android and Linux and Windows. And I have separate Windows environments that I use as well. Cubes is really nice because you can segregate all of them. But I just use Ubuntu for the work computer. Hey, Charles, would you be interested in creating an objective media platform that tells objective facts about what's happening in the world? In your recent X Space, you talked about Biden saying, we'll give $100 billion to Israel and Ukraine. You explained that what that really means. He basically said we're spend half of all U.S. taxes. That's true. Half of all. So the bottom 50%, they pay about $100 billion in taxes, to the federal government and to proxy wars. I'd love to have an objective media source that connects the dots like that. It would be a lot of fun to actually talk about that, and we're definitely going to work on it. How did you choose Ken Kodama to lead Emergo? I did not. I did not staff the foundation or Emergo. They're completely independent entities. Yeah, see if there's anything here. Legends of Valor. What effect would input endorsers have on the monetary policy of Cardano? Pretty significant, actually. The entire monetary policy has to be, and the emission schedule has to be reevaluated. But that's for a different time. Charles, what's your opinion on the presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy? Okay, I make a deal, guys. If you reach out to Vivek's campaign, I would be happy to have an interview with him and just talk to him, him and me. So if you guys do the legwork of reaching out to him, I'd love to actually spend about an hour or two and just kind of see what his opinions are on various things, and then we can take it from there. Does gene therapy offer the most promising breakthrough for type 1 diabetes? There's certainly people that believe that. Another potential time frame for the Lex Friedman podcast. I don't know, Lex, you want me back on? That was a lot of fun. It'd be pretty cool. Anyway, we're at 2 hours. I have to go and do some stuff. Thank you, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I got my voice back. I wasn't coughing anymore, so I really enjoy these things. And thank you so much to the Hosted people. Thank you so much to all of you that stuck around for the 2 hours and listened to me ramble on and on. We laughed, we cried, and we had fun. Cheers.